Yes. Oh yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I should explain one of the, how shall I put it, occupational hazards of being an entirely autistic group of people is sometimes one of us needs a moment to prepare. So one of us has actually had to nip out. Is he coming back? No, he's not coming back. Okay, we shall have to start with that. Our friend Oscar, a brave autistic trade unionist. My name is Paul Wady. And back in, when was it now? 2015, I started a solo show called Aspies, which converts audiences to autism, and it's funny, and it's humorous, and it's entirely from the inside out. No one actually done anything like this before. My friend Kean Binchy had a solo show that showed you what it's like being autistic, and he and I have done the longest running shows that we know about. And there's a few other shows which we hope will carry on indefinitely. In 2016, I put out a survey of what it was like to be autistic in the closet or a late diagnosis. And the result was the show that you're going to hear tonight. And the next one after this is going to be what it's like being a mom on the spectrum who may have autistic kid who's definitely autistic. So without ado, we shall begin.
Neurotypical. Not displaying or characterized by neurologically typical, atypical patterns of thought or behavior. So in other words, Donald Trump is aneurotypical.
Sorry, one moment. I'm not very good with mic stands. I'll just pretend I'm a little shorter for a moment. This is Rebecca. I have been pretending I am not autistic for 44 years. Rebecca. I found out 5 months ago at the age of 44, and it was probably one of the most traumatic but also liberating things that I've learned about myself, and it made sense. So now I'm in the so now what stage of learning about myself and this thing that defines me, but also it doesn't. Knowing what I am is confusing, but it's also freeing in that I can see so much more information to help with the anxiety. The anxiety and the insomnia are the worst. The creativity is cool, but the mind ramblings, the fixed need to be right, and the need for regular days out is a really big pain. As well as working in the normal world with people who seem so rude, but apparently they are normal and I am rude. I hide it when I'm at work, which is really frustrating. And also, I now see so many more people as autistic. Now that I have more information, they really are everywhere. So, I hide it when I'm at work by staying quiet, not interacting too much. I hide behind a computer for communication. And I spend most of my time rewriting emails with social niceties and less brutal truisms. I have been pretending I was not autistic for 44 years.
I have been struggling with severe anxiety, especially social, and depression for quite some time. Never feeling like I could connect with other people. They were so weird and incomprehensible to me. One day, when I was maybe around 40, there was a quiz going around Facebook which I took, and my score was well into the Autism Asperger's range. The first reaction was it was nonsense and just some silly internet quiz, but I was compelled to do more research. When I did, I realised that I identified quite a lot with what I was reading. Sometime in the next couple of years, I went to an autism clinic that specialised in adult diagnosis and was given a professional diagnosis. It's just who I am. It's not a lack of skill or intelligence, and it's not a surplus either. I just have a different skill set than average. For example, asking me to babysit is like asking an average non-technical person to please code a mobile app. I mean, the latter I could easily do, even though I never have. But babysitting is completely not intuitive to me. Before I knew I was autistic, I used to feel like I was a failure as a human being because things that seemed to come naturally to most people were near impossible to me. Things that I struggled to even endure, others didn't even seem to notice. It wasn't until I understood that I was autistic that I realised that other people didn't experience the world the same way that I did. Other people are able to filter sensory input so that they are not bombarded with everything at the same intensity. Other people can process speech real time without a delay so they can keep up conversations. Other people can fill in information about moods and feelings without even having to think about it, rather than only seeing or hearing what is actually, literally there. I don't necessarily hide it, but I don't really advertise it either. If it becomes an issue, then I will mention it. I spent 40 years trying to be something unnatural to me. It's very draining, and I suffered periods of burnout where I wasn't able to do much of anything. I have better things to spend my time on now. I'm not really able to put on an act. All I can do is suppress. My method of pretending is really just being silent and still, which ends up drawing attention anyway. My silence and lack of expression have always stood out as weird to other people, and it's always what people comment on, so it's not a very effective act. I have learned stock responses in small talk. I hate them, but I can use them appropriately when I have to in order to not seem too weird. I cannot, however, do anything beyond that. I can't do spontaneous conversation at all. I don't talk. Now, this is not literally true, as I am capable of speech, but I can't participate in spontaneous conversations. I can give short answers to questions, but my speech processing time is so long, it's just easier for me to not talk. Occasionally a certain topic might come up, which I will talk about well beyond what others are interested in. I've been told, right, I either don't talk at all, or I don't stop. Since I'm now aware that the latter is annoying, I tend to default to not talking at all. I tend to put everyone else's comfort above my own, so I feel like I compromise a lot. It's very hard for me to ask for accommodations. I'm embarrassed that it's so difficult for me to handle things that don't bother other people. So I just shut off instead of saying anything. I've always tried to be as invisible as possible. I felt like I was broken and weak. I thought that everyone experienced the world like I did, and they were just somehow stronger and better able to cope than I was. It didn't help that my former stepdad treated me as if this were true. At this point in my life, I'm done pretending to be something I'm not. I will choose to be poor rather than expending significant energy faking it just to have a little more money and then not be able to enjoy life anyway. It was very difficult pretending I was not autistic. I was ashamed that I was perceived as weird, no matter how hard I tried to be normal. I pushed myself to do things that were insanely difficult for me, because other people did them with little effort, and I didn't want to seem as weak or lazy. I did nothing but work and sleep, because I had no energy for anything else, and then my life felt pointless. I would never suggest that someone try to do neurotypical. Typical does not equal better. At best it equals average. However, I find that if I practice proper self-care, including eating properly and sleeping enough and allowing myself plenty of alone time pursuing my own interests for recuperation, it is much easier to participate in the world at large in small doses without being so overwhelmed that it causes a disturbance.
This is Mab's Beats. I was 16 and attended college when I was sent to the educational psychologist for evaluation. I found out then I'm fine with being autistic, although sometimes it can be a bit isolating. I wish there was more understanding and knowledge from people. I don't really try and hide my autism or my nature. Even if I don't tell people I'm autistic, I still express my traits openly. I don't pretend I'm not autistic. I don't see the need to, and I don't even know how to. I am autistic. It's who I am, 24/7. That cannot be changed. I can act sometimes as if I'm not autistic by communicating and socialising more with neurotypicals rather than sticking to my own routine and avoiding contact. But often I don't make eye contact and I stim a lot. This happens every time I communicate with people. Well, people never call me out on it or criticise me for it. I compromise by leaving my comfort zone to spend more time with neurotypicals and sometimes do activities I wouldn't normally do, like sports or holidays.
This is a PhD female medical student, and I'm going to read it because actually she it's quite a wordy piece, and quite honestly I don't want to paraphrase her. I want to get it really accurate because the language is really crucial in this one. So I'm going to read this one. I was 24 and a computer science PhD student when I discovered I was on the spectrum. I started having panic attacks the summer before my 24th birthday, and over the following couple of months descended into severe depression. I eventually went to my GP, who, after months of getting nowhere, persuaded me to see a counsellor, who noted that I wouldn't look her in the eye and said, "What do you know about Asperger's syndrome?" She followed this up with, "But I don't know, I mean, you obviously have a sense of humour, and you're not meant to if you're on the spectrum." I was offended because all I'd been told about ASD was that autistic people don't realise that other people have feelings. This, and the humour thing, made me sure I could not be autistic. Au contraire. I went home and I did some Google searching and discovered that actually those things are myths, and it was obvious that I have Asperger's right from the start. I mentioned this to my GP at my next appointment, and she immediately referred me for diagnosis. I was officially diagnosed about 9 months later at the age of 25. I want the world to know that autistic people, A, have feelings, B, can empathise, C, care about other people. I also wish that autism were not understood as primarily a social and/or communication disorder with sensory processing weirdnesses as a side note, but rather a sensory processing difference that has social communication side effects. I have to hide it, and I have done since I was diagnosed almost 2 years ago. I'm a medical student, and due to the autistic people can't feel empathy and autistic people don't like people myths, it would hurt my career if people made those assumptions about me. My immediate family and one of my best friends knows. The other one said, "Oh, but you're not medically weird, you're just normally weird," when I tried to tell her. So I didn't mention it again, and I'm not sure that she registered it. I pretend I'm neurotypical with difficulty. It takes a lot of energy. For years, it also used energy turned against myself as I tried to experience the world the way I was told I should, tried to find the sensory and emotional and physiological responses in myself that I was told I was having when they're not there, and deny the ones that are. Now at least I can understand and focus all my energy on passing in public. I don't have to pretend when I'm at home alone. I try to act normal in public and suppress more obvious stims, although sometimes they get through if I'm not paying attention. I make excuses like I have an appointment to explain why I can't do things, instead of being able to say, I'm completely overwhelmed by processing sensory input and I need to go home and shut myself away until I've recovered. I tell people I have a migraine instead of saying I'm having an autistic shutdown. I pretend that things don't hurt my senses when they do. I fake enthusiasm for things I don't care about or that scare the hell out of me, because that's the normal response. I claim reactions to things that I don't experience. I nod along and pretend to understand when actually I have no idea what's going on.
Should explain that I use the machine here because my particular ADHD is such that I've really lost the capacity to learn lines and stuff. I think someone's trying to escape. Okay. This is Nick. I had been struggling with severe anxiety, especially social and depression for quite some time. And never feeling like I could connect with other people. They were so weird. Oh no. No, we've already read all of it. So the person I was after was really complicated. You'd think an autistic person would handle the technology better. I found out shortly after my 41st birthday. I had to chase the diagnosis myself. The GP practice had never dealt with an adult diagnosis before, and they didn't know what to send me. I had to source that from them. I don't know what typical is like, so it is difficult in comparison. And I prefer a little more peace and quiet than my work colleagues. I can feel quite lonely despite being surrounded by folk, because I often feel I have no connection with them. Throughout my life I have had a difficulty in making friends. Many acquaintances and folk I know, but not really friends as such. But then again, what exactly is a friend? Due to the nature of my job, I tend not to reveal my Asperger's, as there is still a great misunderstanding. And I think it would affect how my patients view me. And I pretend not to be